Ladies and gentlemen, some of you might remember the St. Louis case about a year ago of it was a trial of an officer that killed an unarmed black man, and he was also caught planting evidence in his car. And of course, he was acquitted. And see, that's another thing. If we are the criminals that you claim we are, why are your cops planting evidence? Doesn't that kind of make a liar out of your point? It really does. It's still a blast beating people. St. Louis police indicted in assaulting of undercover police officer. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there was a black cop posing as a protester. And these cops got caught text messaging how much they were looking forward to beating up people and stuff. And they unknowingly went in the crowd and got this black man and started beating him. Now, this man was a 22-year veteran on the police force, and they beat him to a pulp. They beat him so badly he couldn't even eat. And he ended up losing all this weight. And turns out what they were beating on another cop. And it just goes to another point. Black cops are not safe on police forces. Technically they are no more, they're no safer than even a black citizen in the community, ladies and gentlemen. And, it's a disgrace the way policing is done in America. But this is the lame ass way they choose to police people. And it has turned out to be nothing short of a disaster. And it also proves that these folks can't run a goddamn thing. All right, so this came out November 30th, 2018, after a cop was acquitted for the death of Anthony Lamar Smith, and the cop's name was Jason Stockley. Some of you might remember this. Out of St. Louis, a huge protest erupt, and this of text messages these cops were sending. Now, I want you to listen to this. This came from an officer named Dustin Boone. This is a white officer, and this is what he texts. "It's going to get ignorant tonight," he texted on September 15th, 2017, the day of the verdict. "It's going to be a lot of fun beating the hell out of these shitheads once the sun goes down, and nobody can tell us apart." This coming from a police officer. 2 days later, prosecutors say that's exactly what Boone did to one black protester. Well, that black protester was an undercover cop. Boone, 35, and two other officers, Randy Hayes, 31, and Christopher Myers, 27, threw a man on the ground and viciously kicked him and beat him with a riot baton, even though he was complying with their instructions. And it just go to show you right there, it doesn't matter how much black people comply. It doesn't matter if we don't run. It don't matter if you got your hands on the steering wheel. It don't matter if you got your hands up in the air. It don't matter if you're down on the ground and you're not a threat at all. These cops will still attack and kill you. Plain and simple. Okay. But the three officers had no idea the man was a 22-year police veteran working undercover, whom they beat so badly that he couldn't eat and lost 20 pounds. On Thursday, a federal grand jury indicted the three officers in the assault. They also indicted the man and another officer, Bailey Coletta, 25, for the attack. Prosecutors released text messages showing the officers bragging about assaulting protesters, with Hayes even noting that going rogue does feel good. These are the kind of cops they want on their force, y'all. straight up animals. I hope somebody do this to somebody in their families one day. To protest leaders, the federal charges are a welcome measure of justice, but also a sign of how far St. Louis still has to go 4 years after the Ferguson protest helped galvanize a national movement for police accountability. If it was not a police officer, and a particularly Black police officer, who was the victim of this assault, would we be at this juncture? No. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. If that was a Black citizen and that happened, they would just pay some kind of restitution, tell them to be quiet, and the officers would still be working. The Reverend Darrell Gray, one of the protest organizers, said to the Washington Post, "We've had several incidents of protesters and activists being victims of excessive use of force and police abusing their authority without ever seeing charges like this." The 2017 protests centered on the case of Officer Jason Stockley, who had killed 24-year-old Anthony Lamar Smith in December 2011 after chasing him following an alleged drug buy. Stockley had an unauthorized personal AK-47 on the scene and was recorded on dash cam during the chase, saying he was going to kill Smith. Moments later, after Smith crashed, Stockley fired 5 fatal shots into his car. In 2016, local prosecutors charged Stockley with first-degree murder and alleged the officer planted a revolver in Smith's car after the killing. And many of us saw the videotape of that. I saw it, and I did a video on it. When a judge acquitted him on September 15th, 2017, activists who had emerged from the Ferguson protest planned mass demonstrations around St. Louis, and they did. They had very massive, they shut down businesses and everything. Gray said he expected police to act much as they did during Ferguson, when heavily militarized officers stormed protesters, drawing national condemnation from civil rights activists. We knew that from 2014, the police culture had not changed, he said. We knew it wasn't going to be pretty. In fact, texts from Boone, Hayes, and Myers suggest those officers were explicitly looking forward to violently attacking protesters. The day the verdict was released, Myers suggested they whoop some ass. Boone boasted of how he would beat people up when they don't act right and just grab protesters and toss them around. Asked how he was faring during the demonstration 2 days after the verdict, Boone responded, "A lot of cops get hurt, but it's still a blast beating people that deserve it. I'm enjoying every night." So this cop was only out there just to grab and beat people up. But his stupid ass unknowingly beat up a 22-year veteran Black cop. The same day, Boone's, Hayes, and Myers encountered a man identified as LH. The federal documents, according to the St. Louis Dispatch, he was Luther Hall, a veteran city police officer working undercover during the demonstration. Though he made no effort to resist, the 3 officers brutally beat Hall who was left with a 2 centimeter hole above his top, above his lip. That's disgusting. An injured tailbone and back injuries that required surgery. He still hasn't recovered enough to return to work. That's a damn shame. But ladies and gentlemen, it goes back to me having to question, why would anybody in our community would want to be a cop? I just have to wonder that. You're really putting your life at risk. It doesn't even matter. There's been many undercover and off-duty black cops killed dealing with these white cops that are hell-bent out here on harming and killing the public, just like these cops. These cops are a perfect example of that, itching to get out on the street to harm and kill citizens. See, like I said, these are the kind of cops they liked during the slave catching days, and they are the kind of cops they want in modern slave catching days. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.